Blinkist is the app that helps you become a more well-rounded person by letting you read or listen to an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. You can try it for free and get 25% off a subscription by going to Blinkist.com/David Pakman.
Welcome to the David Pakman Show. I am David Pakman if he dyed his hair red and got stung by 1,000 bees. I am Jesse Dollemore. Thanks for joining me today. Again, I want to thank David for asking me to not co-host, but substitute this week. I'm flattered. I'm honored. And I would appreciate it if you would follow me on social media. I'm at Dollemore just about everywhere, from YouTube to Twitter, to TikTok. I'm all over the place, just at Dollemore. Today I want to talk about friend of the program, Mike Lindell, or as David would call him, MyPillow. The Cybersymposium that has been talked about for seemingly ever started today, and it was postponed because of he was hacked, according to Mike Lindell, which obviously cannot be trusted because he is a grifter and a charlatan and a liar. I'm going to read from this article in The Independent briefly, and then I'm going to play a couple clips from the madness that ensued today. MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell delays start of Cybersymposium, claiming he has been hacked. Conspiracy theorist claims there was more evidence of election malfeasance in November and December than any crime in history. That's saying a lot, considering the crimes that we have witnessed throughout history, that Donald Trump losing an election was the biggest. It says a lot about not just where the right is right now, but also where Mike Lindell is. And before I go on, I want to admonish everybody that listen, I'm a guy, I don't mind a few insults. I don't mind flinging a few names here and there. But to impugn this man because he is a former drug addict, I think is misguided. I don't need to come to Mike's defense, Mike, like we're friends, but addiction is a disease. Addiction isn't a moral failure. And if you're going to pick on somebody for something, that shouldn't be it. There's plenty of ammunition to use against Mike Lindell that doesn't involve his struggles with addiction. Having said that, I want to read a little bit from this article. MyPillow CEO and pro-Trump conspiracy theorist Mike Lindell delayed the start of his quote-unquote Cybersymposium after claiming that the whole technology was attacked. I guess I could do the Mike Lindell voice for the quotes. The whole technology was attacked, yeah, since he is like a character from the movie Fargo. We need to get the word out because they blocked the thing. Technologist, futurist, understander of modernity and technology. They blocked the thing. But this is part of what I'm going to talk about today. This is a cover-up. This is the absolute cover-up of the worst in history, Mr. Lindell told a crowd in South Dakota on Tuesday. The audience had gathered to hear evidence for the baseless conspiracy theory that the 2020 election was stolen from former President Donald Trump. Mr. Lindell claimed that his symposium will show that China hacked the election to make sure that Joe Biden won. There's no evidence of this, and election security experts have said that the 2020 election was one of the safest in U.S. history. Now, I will remind you, I'm sure you remember, that in November, Donald Trump's own Department of Homeland Security declared this election the safest and most secure in the history of the country. That's saying something. But still, these conspiracy ding-dongs are running across the country, hosting cyber symposiums with their fake nonsense, their streaming data of just merely metadata, and attempting to continue to whip the right into a frenzy, into a conspiratorial rage that we already witnessed violence at the hands of. These people who believe Donald Trump lost are the same people who stormed the Capitol, harming over 150 police officers. The same people. So this isn't just a fanciful thing of some wingnut out there in South Dakota. There are real world ramifications to this. Real harm can be done. real lives can be ruined. Here's a couple of video clips. The first is when he's announcing the postponement, the short postponement, because of the dreaded hack.
But we do have a backup plan. It'll be probably another 5 minutes. And I want all you guys to know that out there, that this is why, because I need to get the word out. We can't even get the word out to the people that are frankspeech.com because they blocked the thing. But this is part of what I'm going to talk about today. This is the cover-up. This is the absolute cover-up of the worst crime in history. And we're going to talk about all this today. This is, and you're going to see all kinds of things. We're going to educate everybody. We're going to show them we're going to be running. I'll show you over here. You see this data that's running there. That's cyber data from what I've got. Let's see if it's moving. Yeah, it's not rotating yet, but that'll go in an endless stream for days. And we put 6 states up there. But we're not going to start the regular program, though, because I want to start, because it's all educational and it all goes in sequence. I will say this. Everybody, tonight you're going to see something at 7 o'clock that it's going to change the world. And then also tomorrow.
That applause seems a little tepid for the announcement to come on the heels of the announcement that it's going to change the world. Like, change the world. I'll give you a little clap. The other part that I want to share with you is, and I'm laughing, by the way, because it is hilarious. This man is a funny person. He is objectively goofy. Someone came to him and said, we're going to go to lunch, and he refused. In fact, he got aggressive about it. And I'm not taking a lunch. I'm going to live stream. Just bizarre.
They attacked me. They buried it. You think about that.
They got something they want to show you off stage here.
Okay, I guess we have something off stage. So we're live streaming now. So you want to talk?
Well, I think we're set up for a break, and then maybe we're going to talk a little bit right when we get back there. We're going to go into...
No, we're not going on a break. Put up that movie again. Run the movie. There's no breaks. We're streaming 72 hours live streaming. So around the world, this never stops. You guys can go eat. That's fine. But I ain't eating. I'm staying up here for 72 hours before they ruin our signal. Go with the movie. Movie.
Ladies and gentlemen, lunch is now available in the back hallway. Thank you.
Yeah. We're going to put the movie up again. If everybody missed it, I want to go to the movie up.
Tabulation system.
And then when we come back from the movie, we're going to have Dr. Frank stream, he's going to get on there and do his presentation. So is the movie going?
Came together because they
you guys, this is the movie y'all heard about this morning. With this movie.
So no lunch for Lindell. He's too focused on the task at hand to uncover the world-changing data at his Cybersymposium, which, by the way, is being live streamed by like Steve Bannon on Real America's Voice. You know, not fake America's Voice, real America's Voice. Related to all of this election misinformation, disinformation, propaganda is this news that Dominion, the voting machine company, is not only have they sued Mike Lindell, not only have they sued Rudy Giuliani, not only have they sued Sidney Powell, they are now suing Newsmax, OANN, and Patrick Byrne, who is the CEO of Overstock.com. So someone who is fundamentally committed to anti-democratic principles, Patrick Byrne, owns a company out there that you may or may not do business with, and you may or may not want to know or have that information. Reading from The Insider, Dominion sues Newsmax, OANN, and Overstock CEO Patrick Byrne for promoting election conspiracy theories. Dominion Voting Systems sued Newsmax and One America News Network on Tuesday, accusing the far-right media organizations of defamation for pushing far-fetched conspiracy theories that the election technology company rigged the 2020 presidential election. Republicans love corporate autonomy, Republicans love to treat corporations like people, so they have to be on board with this lawsuit. No? Wouldn't you think? Tuesday's lawsuit against OAN accused it of engaging, quote, in a race to the bottom with Fox and other outlets such as Newsmax to spread false and manufactured stories about election fraud, end quote. Dominion quickly became the focus of this downward spiral of lies as each broadcaster attempted to outdo the other by making the lies more outrageous, spreading them further, and endorsing them as strongly as possible, the lawsuit said. It added that although the lies promoted by OAN were, quote, verifiably false, they were still devastating to Dominion's reputation. And this, on its face, seems logical. It seems reasonable. It seems like common sense that their reputation would be impugned and their bottom line affected by this. They have to show damages because before the 2016 election, could you have named a company that ran voting machines? I could not. And it is because of that publicity, is because of that coverage, is because of these pernicious and sinister conspiracy theories that we do know their name. This lawsuit does seem to have merit. Dominion also accused OAN host Chanel Rion, not her real name, and Christina Bobb of amplifying and spreading false claims about Dominion. The network deputized Rion as an in-house spokesperson for all Dominion-related content, the lawsuit said. Dominion began in January by suing Sidney Powell, as I mentioned, Rudy Giuliani, who claimed Dominion has secret ties to the regime of now dead Venezuelan dictator Hugo Chavez, and developed technology that flipped votes from then President Donald Trump to now President Joe Biden. Dominion, as an aside here, also sued MyPillow CEO Mike Lindell, who pushed versions of that falsehood. So, MyPillow and all of this cohort of dum-dums and purveyors of conspiracy theories, they're all in the same camp, and they're all doing damage to the Republic. These are fatriots. They claim to love the country. They claim to cherish our freedoms. They rattle on about the Constitution of the United States and having taken an oath, many of them. And they violate that oath. They violate the possibility that they have respect for democratic rule when they are actively, months after a free and fair election, months after, they are continuing to spread gossip and misinformation, whipping their followers, their adherents into a frenzy such that they attack the government, such that there's a violent insurrection at the United States Capitol where people died, where they, like I said yesterday, erect a hangman's gallows, chanting, "Hang Mike Pence," stalking throughout the Capitol grounds. Nancy Pelosi, where are you? Ominous, dangerous, un-American, anti-democratic. And where is their leader to quell this? Where is Donald Trump, who's certainly not short for words? He's not short on media appearances. He could end this, just like he could have ended the pandemic early on. Instead, he sowed doubt about masks. Donald Trump could go on Fox. He could make the rounds to these idiot networks. He could go on Fox News. He could go on Newsmax. He could go on One America News and say, "Stop it, everybody. We need to come together. Insurrection and violent revolt against your government isn't the way forward. We will beat them at the ballot box next time. But you know what? Donald Trump doesn't have the mettle. Donald Trump doesn't have it in himself to do the right thing, because the right thing would mean taking a step back from the spotlight. The right thing would mean not making it all about Donald Trump."
What if you could read 10 books in just one sitting? That's exactly what one of my favorite apps lets you do. It's called Blinkist, and what they do is take thousands of popular nonfiction books They condense them down into text or audio that you can consume in 15 minutes. Blinkist makes sure that you're getting all of the important core insights from each book. So it's perfect for exploring a book you otherwise wouldn't have time for. If there's a full book you're thinking about buying, you can use Blinkist to get a sample first. Just think how much you can enrich yourself by being able to soak up an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. I recently read A Brief History of Time, of course, by the great Stephen Hawking. This is a book that I have been aware of for so long, and other things got in the way, and it was fantastic to check it out on Blinkist. Blinkist has books on politics, philosophy, science. They have 27 different nonfiction categories, and a subscription is only about $8 a month, and you get the entire library. But you can try it totally free and get 25% off a subscription when you go to Blinkist.com/David Pakman. I've put the link right underneath this video.
I did a story yesterday where I talked about the differences between Republicans and Democrats, especially related to holding our own accountable. And in that video, I discussed Andrew Cuomo, and that there was an unavoidable march toward impeachment that wasn't going to be able to be avoided. Unavoidable, he couldn't avoid it. That's how it works. That's how language works. Dumb guy. So this morning, press conference was held just about 9:30 my time here in Southern California. And Andrew Cuomo, I almost called him Chris. Again, dumb guy. Andrew Cuomo resigned, or he gave his 2 weeks notice. And there are a few moments in his press conference, in his announcement video, his live stream, that I want to address. Because, yes, he's doing the right thing. He's leaving. He is doing it to save himself the shame of being the only governor of the state of New York to ever be impeached and removed from office. But he is doing it in a very recalcitrant way. It's aggressive. It is trying to give deference to the 11 women who have accused him of misconduct, while also saying, I didn't know. The rules have changed. I'm an affectionate guy. And I don't believe that is acceptable. It's certainly in a post-Me Too era, but it's not acceptable for a leader, for a politician, for someone who is in charge of policy decisions, especially related to sexual assault and sexual misconduct. And he is a man who should be intelligent enough to understand consent. You don't get to just kiss people without them saying, it's okay to touch me. It's okay to put your body on mine. Let's cut to this first clip where he's talking about this thing that he just didn't know.
I take full responsibility for my actions. I have been too familiar with people. My sense of humor can be insensitive and off-putting. I do hug and kiss people casually, women and men. I have done it all my life. It's who I've been since I can remember. In my mind, I've never crossed the line with anyone. But I didn't realize the extent to which the line has been redrawn. There are generational and cultural shifts that I just didn't fully appreciate.
So Andrew Cuomo would take on the old grandpa approach to his defense here. I'm an old man and I didn't know that the rules have changed. Calling ladies honey and sweetie. Kissing them on the cheeks. This doesn't pass the smell test, for me, anyway. I think in many ways, Andrew Cuomo has been a standout governor. I think he got a little too much praise for his COVID response, especially in the wake of scandal, where they lied about nursing home deaths as a mechanism to stave off an investigation. That's the excuse they gave. That's not what I'm saying. They said that. But this is not an acceptable excuse. That I kiss a lot of people. I hug a lot of people. That's just me. Listen, I'm an affectionate guy. I'm a hugger. I'm a toucher. But it is common sense that you don't impose yourself upon someone else before getting consent, being told it's okay. It just, that's the way it is. And especially if you're the governor of the state of New York, knowing the immense power and influence and authority that you have in that position, you have to walk a little bit more carefully. Because of that power, the aura of authority around you. You're not Joe who works down at the Jiffy Lube, who gets a little fresh with a client and doesn't know it because he's Joe who works down at the Jiffy Lube. You're the governor of the state of New York. Next up is, again, while he apologizes and says, oh, I just didn't know, he's couching, he's hedging his apology and his admitting to what he did with, this is a political witch hunt. It all smacks very much to me like a Trump excuse.
Now, you know me. I'm a New Yorker, born and bred. I am a fighter. And my instinct is to fight through this controversy because I truly believe it is politically motivated. I believe it is unfair and it is untruthful. And I believe it demonizes behavior that is unsustainable for society. If I could communicate the facts through the frenzy, New Yorkers would understand. I believe that. But when I took my oath as governor, then it changed. I became a fighter, but I became a fighter for you. And it is your best interest that I must serve.
Those are all words that have crossed the lips of Donald Trump many times. How unfair it is, that it's politically motivated, which is just another way to say it's a witch hunt. That it's untruthful. These are lies. If they are lies, Governor Cuomo, then why indeed, sir, are you resigning? If this is baseless, why are you resigning? You can't have it both ways. That it's a political witch hunt, but then also admit that a lot of women were offended. That they were uncomfortable. They were made uncomfortable by you and your advances. Not to mention the fact that some of these accusations rise to the level of criminal prosecution. Reaching under women's blouses and touching their breasts. Running your finger along the belly button over to the side of the hip where the weapon is carried on your female protective duty state trooper. This isn't just, I didn't know, I'm a huggy guy. No. And then finally, the moment where he says he's going to resign.
And I think that given the circumstances, the best way I can help now is if I step aside and let government get back to governing. And therefore, that's what I'll do. Because I work for you. And doing the right thing is doing the right thing for you. Because as we say, it's not about me. It's about we.
And in the wake of this, the female lieutenant governor of the state of New York will be sworn in about 2 weeks or so to be the first female governor of the state of New York. I find myself saying this a lot, but it's 2021. We are on the heels of 2022, and this is the first female governor in the history of the state of New York? We can do better than that. We can absolutely do better than that. And listen, I know I ruffle a lot of feathers over on my own channel when I wield criticisms of Democrats, when I have things to say that are critical of Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi, or in this case, Andrew Cuomo. Reasonable people can disagree agreeably and reasonably. And this might be one of those cases. A lot has been made, a lot has been said, a lot has been suggested about the sentences that are coming down and being handed down, or the manner with which the January 6th insurrectionists are being treated in federal jail. There is no federal bail system like there is in state courts or local municipalities. It's either you're released on your own recognizance, or you're put on house arrest with an ankle monitor, or you're remanded to custody until trial. And a federal judge, this is a Politico headline, judge suggests feds are too lenient toward January 6 defendants. The chief judge at the federal court in Washington raised questions about why pleading guilty to a misdemeanor was permitted to resolve certain cases. Now, many of you don't know who I am, but I happen to have a close connection to the January 6th insurrection. My wife and co-host of my podcast, I Doubt It, one of them, this dingus, was my wife's high school boyfriend.
I just got in the Capitol building. I was the first one. I hopped down into the chamber, and I was the first one to sit. And Nancy Pelosi, that bitch, she's a traitor. She's treasonous.
Save the condolences. This was a long time ago. It's not like she escaped some culty relationship. They were kids. But this is the kind of people that I was surrounded by growing up in Idaho. Josiah Colt, who also related to this story, is being allowed all kinds of plea deals for his promises to turn state's evidence and testify against his conspirators. There are absolutely deals being made, and I think this judge has an important perspective. A federal judge suggested Monday that federal prosecutors were being too lenient in their handling of cases stemming from the storming of the United States Capitol as lawmakers were convening on January 6th to certify Joe Biden's victory in the presidential race. Beryl Howell, the chief judge of the federal court in Washington, deluged with more than 550 prosecutions from the Capitol riot, raised questions about why some defendants were being permitted to resolve their criminal cases by pleading guilty to a misdemeanor, and why the amount of money prosecutors are seeking to recover through those plea deals was based on a relatively paltry estimate of about $1.5 million in damages caused by the rioters. Howell aired her doubts during what was expected to be a routine morning hearing to take the guilty plea of a Capitol riot defendant, Glenn Croy of Colorado Springs, Colorado. Croy was arrested in February on charges that he and another man, Terry Lindsay, illegally entered the Capitol building on January 6th. Final paragraph here. Under a deal with prosecutors, Croy was seeking to plead guilty to a single misdemeanor charge of parading or picketing in the Capitol. That carries a maximum sentence of 6 months in jail and a fine of up to $5,000. To overuse a term, again, this does not pass the smell test. They weren't just there picketing. It wasn't a protest. They weren't holding a parade. The intent of everyone there who entered the Capitol was to disrupt the counting of votes, the certification of the 2020 presidential election, to overturn those results, to strike and stoke fear in a terroristic manner into the hearts and minds of legislators constitutionally tasked with certifying the vote, electing in a peaceful transfer of power the next president of the United States. So I'm with Beryl Howell. I agree. Hard questions need to be asked as we delve into these particular prosecutions. Prosecutors should not be too quick to allow plea deals that will lighten the results and the consequences for these insurrectionists.
Don't forget that the best way to support the David Pakman Show is by becoming a member, which gives you access to the daily bonus show, the regular show with no commercials. You also get access to our entire archive of every episode dating back a really long time and plenty of other awesome membership perks. Go to joinpakman.com and use the coupon code BETTER21 for a huge discount. Joinpakman.com.
The coronavirus and the onslaught that has been foisted upon the American people and indeed the world has really laid bare some very sinister aspects of the Republican Party, that they have completely jettisoned any concern for the American people and the health and welfare of them, even their constituents. This beating the drum of self-reliance and pulling yourself up by your bootstraps and personal responsibility, while romantic to Republicans, doesn't play when we're talking about an invisible virus that can spread without anybody knowing it. So it's not like a helmet law when you ride a motorcycle, that if you crack your head open and spill your brains onto the interstate, you're only hurting yourself. They can't make that argument. Ayn Rand nonsense only goes so far. But when you try to practically apply those ideals to a pandemic, they fail. Let's talk about Ted Cruz and an appearance he made on Fox News on Hannity's show, really extolling the virtues of no mandates for anything. Watch this remarkable BS.
In a time of crisis, people's character is revealed, and the character of Democrats, whether it is Joe Biden, whether it is Andrew Cuomo, whether it is Bill de Blasio, whether it is Gavin Newsom, the character from their perspective, they do not respect your liberty. They do not respect your right to make your choices about your health care, about your children, about your lives. My view is very simple. There should be no mandates, zero concerning COVID. That means no mask mandates, regardless of your vaccination status. That means no vaccine mandates. That means no vaccine passports. And I've introduced legislation, a bill to ban vaccine passports. This week I'm introducing a bill to ban vaccine mandates. And this week I'm introducing a bill to end mask mandates. Now, that doesn't mean, as the media likes to characterize, that I'm opposed to vaccines. I actually think vaccines are terrific. I've taken the vaccine. My family's taken the vaccine. But I believe in individual choice, individual responsibility. You can make the choice for your family. These mandates are coming. And as you noted a few minutes ago, talking about Dr. Fauci, what they're talking about is political. It's not tied to the science.
It is political now, Ted Cruz, because of you, because of your colleagues, your Republican goofball colleagues who have made this political. And it is remarkable to me, Senator Cruz, that you list all of these people that you act like are not concerned about Americans' liberty or lives or health or welfare or well-being. And it's all Democrats. You named no one on your side. The bomb throwers, the Jim Jordans, the Hawley from Missouri, the encouragers of insurrectionists. You didn't name anybody there. But to poo-poo mandates, mask mandates, that absolutely curb the transmission of the virus, without a doubt, fact. To in one breath talk about that you got the vaccine and it's safe and it's good, but also say, but no one should be forced to get it. The reason we're in a position to even talk about having to mandate vaccines is because you have vilified and demonized the getting of the vaccine. So much so that there are millions of Americans, many of whom are in a very, very peculiar area of the country where this kind of recalcitrance is common, in the South. And you've ginned up fear all couched in personal responsibility, all couched in my liberty. It is nonsense. And it is nonsense because if you go to the grocery store and you've refused to get the vaccine and you're asymptomatic for the coronavirus and you pass it on to someone who is immunocompromised and unable for valid medical reasons to get the vaccine, and you give them COVID and they die, your rights do not extend beyond where you can swing your arm. Have you heard that before, Ted Cruz? This is dangerous, this is disgusting, and this is political. That's all this is from Ted Cruz. Another one of these vaccine mandate ne'er-do-wells is Rand Paul from Kentucky. Ostensibly a man of medicine, an ophthalmologist, although not board certified. He created his own licensing organization to license himself. These people. He took to a video to explain in a very aggressive manner how he will not be bossed around. You're not the boss of me, Nancy Pelosi. Watch this.
It's time for us to resist. They can't arrest all of us. They can't keep all of your kids home from school.
It starts off in grand fashion. They can't kill all of us. They can't arrest all of us. They can't persecute all of us. This is what this is boiled down to for these types. Rand Paul, who has absolutely eradicated any credibility he once had, if he had any at all. He has become an absolute Trump lackey, a Trump automaton. He's a facsimile of Donald Trump, especially related to this particular topic. We will unfortunately let him continue.
They can't keep every government building closed.
Although there's a few I would like to close.
Might keep closed or might ought to keep closed. We don't have to accept the mandates, lockdowns, and harmful policies of the petty tyrants and bureaucrats. We can simply say no. No.
Petty tyrants and bureaucrats. Petty tyrants. To Rand Paul and many who follow him, they believe that a public health measure to keep children and the infirmed, people who are especially vulnerable to infection, that keeping them safe and healthy is tyranny. I would love to see a Rand Paul put back in time, travel across the eons to a time when there were revolutionary machinations in the colonies, and see how he would have stood up. There's a lot of talk about our founding fathers risked their treasure and their reputations and their sacred honor to enter into the revolution, to free us and make us independent from Great Britain. Does he have the medal for that? I say no.
Nancy Pelosi, you will not arrest or stop me or anyone on my staff from doing our jobs. We have either had COVID, had the vaccine, or been offered the vaccine. We will make our own health choices. We will not show you a passport. We will not wear a mask. We will not be forced into random screenings and testings so you can...
All this means is we will not care for our fellow Americans. We will not be concerned with the health and well-being of our neighbors. We don't care about that. We're too busy owning the libs. I dare say Rand Paul's neighbor did not go far enough.
Continue your drunk with power reign over the Capitol. President Biden, we will not accept your agency's mandates or your reported moves towards a lockdown. No one should follow the CDC's anti-science mask mandates. And if you want to shut down federal agencies again, some of which aren't even back to work yet, I will stop every bill coming through the Senate with an amendment to cut their funding if they don't come back to work in person.
Because this is pattern and practice for Rand Paul. I'm gonna gum up the works because that's all I'm good at. I'm going to vote against this. I'm going to vote against amendments. I'm going to offer amendments that have no chance of passage in order that I slow down the mechanism of the Senate, to slow any progress that might be made in the course of signing legislation into law by the president. Unbelievable, the temerity of this man.
Bureaucrats and union bosses, we will not allow you to do more harm to our children again this year. Children are not at any more risk from COVID than they are from the seasonal flu.
With this, Dr. Drew over here, we are witnessing a massive spike in infections of children, of hospitalization of children. And he stands here purporting to care about kids while doing everything in his power to ensure that those spikes only increase, that we see more death, more destruction, more mayhem at the hands of the virus, getting a little assist from Republican politicians everywhere.
Every adult who works in schools has either had the vaccine or had their chance to get vaccinated. There is no reason for mask mandates, part-time schools, or any lockdown measures. Children are falling behind in school and are being harmed physically and psychologically by the tactics that you have used to keep them from the classroom during the last year. We won't allow it again. If a school system attempts to keep children from full-time in-person school, I will hold up every bill with 2 amendments, one to defund them and another to allow parents the choice of where the money goes for their child's education. Do I sound fed up to you? That's because I am. I'm not a career politician.
Oh, come on, Rand Paul. You can do better than that, brother. I'm not a career politician. Since when, guy? You've been in the Senate a long time. You've been in government a long time. I don't see you stepping away to go work on eyes anytime soon. You're absolutely a career politician who, again, your only move, your go-to, is to threaten to gum up the works, to threaten obstructionism. That's all you got. You're a reactionary ghoul watching millions of Americans get the virus, hundreds of thousands of them die. We don't know where the ceiling of death is in this country. And the reason we don't know, the reason we cannot estimate, is because of monsters like you, ghouls like you.
If you value what we do at The David Pakman Show, remember to support us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/David Pakman Show, where you can get access to behind-the-scenes videos, the Daily Bonus Show, the commercial-free Daily Show, as well as special discounts on merch, including hats, hoodies, mugs, and t-shirts. You can support the show for as little as $2 a month. Check it out at patreon.com/David Pakman Show.
Welcome back to the David Pakman Show. I am Jesse Dollamore, out of work stunt double for Jim Gaffigan. So yesterday, something happened that we've been waiting for many years, and that is an infrastructure bill to pass. During the Trump administration, it seemed like Infrastructure Week was every week, in perpetuity, materializing to nothing. And we passed less than we wanted, less than we need, certainly less than we deserve, but better than nothing. Reading from this New York Times article entitled, Senate Passes $1 Trillion Infrastructure Bill, handing Biden a bipartisan win. The approval came after months of negotiations and despite deficit concerns, reflecting an appetite in both parties for a long-awaited spending package. So the vote ended up being 69-30, which is telling that they were able to get nearly 20 Republicans on board. Even Mitch McConnell, in fact. The Senate gave overwhelming bipartisan approval on Tuesday to a $1 trillion infrastructure bill to rebuild the nation's deteriorating roads and bridges and fund new climate resilience and broadband initiatives, delivering a key component of President Biden's agenda. The vote, 69-30, was uncommonly bipartisan. The yes votes included Senator Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, the Republican leader, and 18 others from his party who shrugged off increasingly shrill efforts by former President Donald J. Trump to derail it, is the last part of that sentence, because it was indeed the MO. It has been the MO of Trump and the Republicans for a long time. I am still wary of what is happening. Of what's happening here. What is to take place? What's the what Machiavellian motivations do they have for overwhelmingly, or for Republicans, it's overwhelming support of this bill? The historic investment in infrastructure is what I believe you, the American people, want, what you've been asking for a long, long time, Mr. Biden said from the White House as he thanked Republicans for showing a lot of courage. Because in today's day and age, it is courage to support an infrastructure bill that is desperately needed as our bridges and our tunnels and our roadways and our infrastructure is literally crumbling. Mr. McConnell, who publicly declared that his priority was stopping the Biden agenda, said in a statement that, quote, "I was proud to support today's historic bipartisan infrastructure deal and prove that both sides of the political aisle can still come together around common sense solutions." If it were coming from anybody other than Mitch McConnell, I might believe it. The measure faces a potentially rocky and time-consuming path in the House, where Speaker Nancy Pelosi and a majority of the nearly 100-member Progressive Caucus had said they will not vote on it unless the Senate passes a separate, even more ambitious $3.5 trillion social policy bill this fall that could put the infrastructure bill on hold for weeks, if not months. And the method by which they intend to press the Senate to pass that $3.5 trillion appropriation is through reconciliation, where they could bypass the filibuster. They could bypass Republican obstructionism. Here is a little larger context, a little longer context of what Joe Biden said in his speech.
First of all, I want to thank a group of senators, Democrats and Republicans, for doing what they told me they would do. The death of this legislation was mildly premature, as reported. They said they're willing to work in a bipartisan manner, and I want to thank them for keeping their word. That's just what they did. After years and years of infrastructure week, we're on the cusp of an infrastructure decade that I truly believe will transform America.
So it was a good day for the country, certainly a good day from an agenda standpoint for President Biden. There was another side, though. That is the side of Mike Lee, Republican from Utah. He is Ted Cruz without a beard. Not quite as salacious. He's a little bit more milquetoast, but certainly an obstructionist. Certainly someone whose agenda is marked by his ability to not vote for things. That's his pride and glory, is his ability to not vote. Here's Mike Lee.
People are still digesting it. Members of the Senate are still digesting it. Look, we're in a period of great inflation, brought on by a period of almost unfettered, unrestrained federal spending. It bears no connection, it seems, to the laws of mathematics or to the amount of money that were brought in. This bill would spend a staggering $1.2 trillion. It would be yet another inflation bomb in an economy that's already been carpet bombed by other inflation bombs. I grasp the fact that it's difficult to put together a bipartisan package. I have nothing but respect for each of our colleagues who were part of this effort. I also am willing to acknowledge that the bill does a lot of good things and would help a lot of deserving beneficiaries. There are a lot of people who would benefit in a lot of ways from it. But there is a huge problem with it. It is not paid for. The reason that we know that that's a problem, that it's not paid for, is that the one consistent refrain that you hear from its sponsors, other than the fact that it's bipartisan, which we know and which we respect, is the fact that it's paid for. They'll say over and over again that this bill is paid for, but when you look at the pay-fors, they don't add up. When you have pay-fors that don't actually pay, you're just going to add to the debt and deficit, and this isn't a good time to be doing that.
It never ceases to amaze me and never will cease to amaze me. These Republicans who pride themselves now on how's this going to be paid for? How are we ever going to pay for this? We're saddling our children with debt. As though this is a household and debt means the same thing as you owning a car and having credit card debt. It is not the same thing. But two, where was Mike Lee during the Donald Trump administration that was running up $1 and $1.5 trillion deficits while things were good economically in the country? Where were you, Mike Lee? Where were you? It just rings hollow. Now listen, I would be lying if I didn't say that I'm a little nervous about the aggressiveness of the progressives in Congress, the squad, who I am almost universally a fan of. But if they push this too far and we get nothing, and they give the Republicans an excuse to back out and not vote for whatever conference agreement they come to on a bill, then we've lost. Then we get nothing. We don't even get the 1 or 1.2 trillion. We get zero. And we're back to square one with the infrastructure week after week kind of a situation. It's not good. Something I talk about a lot on my channel is the existential threat that white supremacists play in America, the threat that they pose. Tucker Carlson being chief among them. I rather famously, if I was famous, I call him a lot of little cute names, a little pet names. And I really do believe he is a googly-eyed feather duster. He is a haircut. He is a trust fund goon. He is a soft-skinned, smooth-brained clown. But he also holds a position within the American zeitgeist that is undeniable. He hosts the most popular cable news show in all of cable news history. The most popular show on Fox News right now, by far. And they're most popular ever. Hannity's ratings don't hold a candle to Tucker Carlson's. Bill O'Reilly in his heyday, nowhere near Tucker Carlson's. And they keep him around even though he is just draining on their budgets, because who advertises for Tucker Carlson? No blue chip companies. Up until a few weeks ago, it was just the MyPillow guy and a few others. But Tucker Carlson is advancing. He has tossed away the dog whistle, and he is advancing the conspiracy theory, the racist conspiracy theory of the Great Replacement theory of white genocide, which used to be talked about only in literal white supremacist circles, like at neo-Nazi camps and Aryan Nation up in northern Idaho, on my home state. And he has taken it to prime time. He has taken it to the morning shows, which is what I want to talk about today. He went on Fox News, Fox and Friends, you know, the friends over at Fox and Friends, and was extolling the virtues of the Great Replacement theory and believes in a conspiratorial fashion that Joe Biden is trying to destroy, these are his words, destroy the country by changing the demographics of America. Watch this.
Yeah, I mean, you know what this tells you, honestly? That what's happening at the border is not a crisis. A crisis is a flood in Bangladesh. It's an act of God. This is an intentional act. This is the administration bringing felons, violent criminals, into our country on purpose. Why would you do something like that? Only to destroy it. I mean, there's no other explanation for this. It's not an act of compassion. It's an act of hostility against the United States in order to change it forever. I think this is the greatest scandal of my lifetime, what's happening on the border right now.
Well, absolutely. Although you've heard Secretary Mayorkas, Tucker says the strategy is working, which makes you wonder, what is the strategy?
Right. Well, the strategy is to change the demographics of the country. Now, when you say that, they have a heart attack and they call you names, but they say it out loud. I mean, they say it on the floor of the Senate. Dick Durbin did 2 weeks ago. This country is changing in a way that benefits the Democratic Party, more Democratic voters. There's no other upside in this policy. By the way, it doesn't help the people coming from around the world. There's a humanitarian disaster unfolding thanks to the Biden administration. The only beneficiaries are the people who run the Democratic Party, and this is an effort to change the country. And we should be honest about it and not be bullied into silence as they take our country away and import violent criminals. What?
There is a lot there. There's a lot there, to be sure. Not only is Joe Biden and this administration purposefully trying to destroy the country, this is the greatest scandal in his lifetime. These Republicans are using a lot of this hyperbolic language surrounding Joe Biden, that it's the worst of this, the greatest crime. This is the greatest scandal of all the scandals of America. In the course of Tucker's 50 years on the planet, there are many. This isn't even a scandal. But in order to whip his audience into a frenzy, and the larger Fox News audience, since he's on Fox and Friends, he has to use this kind of language. But to rattle on about changing demographics, it really does put everything in perspective. During Donald Trump's campaign, there was a lot of analysis around "Make America Great Again," the campaign slogan. And the question was asked, well, when? When was this moment that they hearken back to? And it's certainly pre-1950, when schools and American life was segregated. They pine for these nuggets of history. This is when they believed America was great. When white dominance in this country was absolutely unchecked. And that is the time for which Tucker Carlson yearns. He wants that again. And the fact that the country's demographics are naturally changing, when you're a beacon of light and a beacon of hope to the world, as the Republicans have yammered on about for years, that's what you get. People come here for a better situation, a better life for themselves and their posterity. But that scares Tucker Carlson, and he is intending to scare an audience filled with people who also yearn for those times. Interesting, though, that he has a critique about the word crisis, and then at the very end there, this is a humanitarian disaster. He wanted so badly to say crisis, but he couldn't because he just poo-pooed the word. And then, of course, the refrain about taking our country away. Whose country, Tucker? Is it not also my country? Is it not also people of color, their country? This is no longer safely a white country. The melting pot meme has really been overused, but it is because it is what we are. We are a diverse country, diverse culturally, diverse ethnically, diverse racially, diverse ideologically. And there are certain ideas that are no longer welcome. White supremacy being among them. Tucker Carlson, maybe it is you who is trying to take away our country.
Thanks a lot for watching today's show. I just want to take a second to tell you about today's sponsors. Blinkist is the app that helps you become a more well-rounded person by letting you read or listen to an entire nonfiction book in just 15 minutes. You can try it for free and get 25% off a subscription by going to Blinkist.com/David Pakman.